Nathasamaarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistushtvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitan Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamas Tuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So as I indicated on my WhatsApp message, it's very strange how this last class a week ago was there on YouTube for about 3 days, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. And so I hope that you had a chance to see it. If not, then what I will do is to revise some of the key concepts. And then after the revision, short revision, I will give a kind of a commentary on it based on some ideas by asking some questions to you and seeing whether you have grasped it, and then we will discuss it. Anyway, we'll go into that. So, what we are doing at the moment is looking at the Karikas 11 through 15. Actually, 11 through So what happens is that Gaudapadaji's Karika goes from so it goes from Karika number 10 through 18. After the 7th mantra of the Upanishad, na ubhaya na antah pragyam na bahish pragyam, which was number 7. And then after that, that is the Upanishad mantra. Gaudapadaji's Karika then, Karika means a commentary, a further explanation, goes from number 10 through 18. And then we go back to the Upanishad. So that's how it progresses. And we had already done Karika number 10 in some length. Nivrittehe sarva dukkhanam ishanaf prabhuravyayah advaitav sarva bhavanam devaha turyo vibhusmritaha. So here, the turiyaha, the fourth one, as a distinctioning point between the states of experience, which is the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. What is the basis of it is called Turiya, a common basis of it. So that was introduced in Karika number 10. Then in Karika number 11 through 18, it starts to give a commentary on this number 10. So this is what we were starting in the last class. So let me revise it briefly. So the way this is done is, it goes into a sense of discrimination slowly. And the way I would present that is that at first, if you wanted to teach someone subtle shades of a color, you first have to give the gross changes in color first. So once that is understood, like in the case of a child, you have to introduce what is what is pink, what is red, what is blue, what is yellow. So this is a kind of a gross explanation, gross discrimination. So the child can say, okay, then, so the parents would say, okay, this kind of a color is called yellow. This kind of a color is called pink. This kind like that. So then the child understands that. Okay, now that having done so, the next thing is you look at any one color and start to make some changes within that color. Or perhaps two colors like pink and red. So you mix them up and then now you start teaching someone that needs to be an expert in colors the distinctions between light pink, dark pink, pink with red, pink without red, red without pink, like that, those kinds of subtle discrimination, viveka. So that subtle viveka needs to be done. This is what is being done in the Karika number 11. How? So it's interesting, in the Mandukya Upanishad, the major experiences of us, our human experiences, are being segmented. The viveka is being done. So they say, okay, you look at your waking experience, and it goes into the details of the waking experience. We all know it, but it says, okay, this is what it is. Okay, let's go over to the dream experience. How it is different, how it is similar, dream experience. Then we go into the deep sleep experience. So this is like having different colors. Having done so, now the subtle differences between them is being pointed out. So this is what is called Sukshma Viveka. So first it was Sthula Viveka and now Sukshma Viveka, subtle differences. And that is what is being pointed out in verses in Karika number 11. How? Let us look at that. He says, listen, now that you know these three states of experience, let's analyze them. How? See that your experience in the waking and dream experience is limited by certain factors. It's very clear. So, for example, it is limited by time, it is limited by space, it is limited by experience, it is limited so many different ways. You cannot you cannot be on the East Coast and West Coast at the same time. So you're limited to one place. You are experiencing it now. The past and the future are limiting you. So in all kinds of things, it is limited. So this is what is called limitation of the affect, karya. Then there is a cause which is also limiting you. How are we limited by cause? Because you don't know that you are present at all time, at all places. Sarva Vyapakaha. This is the nature of the Atma. You and I don't know that. We don't know that. Because of that, because of the cause not being, the cause is limiting us. The ignorance of the fact that I am everywhere is limiting me, causing me to take something very limited as myself. So I take one as many. And by the way, this is also true for the dream. Same phenomena. The single person becomes many. How it becomes many needs to be explained very well, and we will do that at some point. Just very briefly. So when you don't, so it's not as though someone is forcing you to become many. You yourself just suddenly become many. You have that ability. And that ability limits you. So the experiences of the dream, which are also can be pleasant or unpleasant, so they have certain, while you are in the dream, you cannot escape it. You have to go through the experience of the dream. Similarly, while you are awake, based on all your previous karmas and vasanas, samskaras, your position, you cannot escape it. You have to go through that, even though it is false. And the falsity of it is actually easily proven by dreaming. As they say, that suppose you were you were very hungry. For some reason, you could not get a meal and you were very hungry and you were looking for some food. Finally, so the all day long, you were looking at hunger. But then, in our life in the West, this doesn't happen. But you can imagine in a poor country where people really do go hungry for a long time because the access is not there, money is not there, possessions are not there. So supposing you are just hungry all day long, and then you get a very good meal. And then you are, as much as you want to eat, hunger is gone. And then after you are satiated, you go to sleep. You go and you have a dream. So what happens is you are actually full. You don't need to be eating anything. But in the dream, there is a vasanas from the day where you were just talking about hunger. And so in the dream, you become hungry again. Very interesting. Your fullness of the waking state is removed instantly by the hunger of the dream state. So anyway, so each of them limit each other. So it's limitation is really what it is saying. So he says, so now we can say in verse number 11, it says, Karya Karana Baddhau Tau Ishyete Vishwa Taijasau. So Vishwa is the waking person, Taijasa is the dreaming person. Both of them are Baddhaha. They are bound as though by the Karya and Karana. Distinct from that is the third state. In the third state, there is no baddha, no limitation of effect, only of the karana. Pragyaha, which is pragyaha, is the you and I, our status as a deep sleeper. It's called pragyaha. In pragyaha, it is limited by karana alone, not by karya. How am I limited by karana? This is a very interesting question. Exactly the same thing as we did before. You know, this is what is also worth really looking at it. We enjoy the fruits of an experience when we know it. This is an important thing to remember. We do, even though one has the experience, if you are not aware of the experience, you don't enjoy it. You know, there are lots of examples for that. So one interesting thing is that sometimes you are so tied up with some problems. Lots of examples. This is just one of them. You are so involved with some emotional issues. Generally, let's say sad. Yeah, in this particular example, a sad emotion. You got some bad news or something like this. If you are eating at that time, supposing you're in the middle of eating, you've already had some solid food and you're chewing it and so on, and you get this experience. You will not enjoy the food. The food gives you the same experience as though when you were calm, but because you were involved, it does not give you that experience. The reason I'm bringing that up here is this is how the deep sleep is binding you as being karana alone. How? So what Vedanta points out is you have the experience of non-duality in deep sleep. Experience of non-duality means that your experience doesn't bind you. There is complete non-duality. You are just free. Right? That's the experience. But guess what? You don't know it. You don't know it. If you knew this, the fact that you are unlimited, it will be wonderful. You'll be free. If you know that I am, nothing limits me. I am the very nature of fullness. Purnamadav Purnamidam. outside Purnaha, inside Purnaha. If you knew this, my gosh, that is not an ordinary experience. This is really the crux of the whole life. This is what we live for. And very few people are able to achieve it, but you can do it. But guess what? We don't know it. So in that sense, even though you are free, but you don't know that you are free, you are bound by it. You see, that is the logic. So this is what it is saying. It says that in waking and dream state, you are bound by affects also, as well as karana and karya. But in deep sleep, you are only bound by karana. Only karana. Okay, so this is number 11. Now we go to number 12. And by the way, in number 11 it says, in turiya, dvau tau turiyena siddhyataha. In the number 11, the last part of number 11. So he says, these limitations of karya and karana do not apply to turiya. This is the distinction. This is the subtle viveka. So he says it doesn't apply to turiya. He explains this further in number 12. He says, na atmanam na paramscha eva na satyam napi cha anritam pragyaha kinchana samveti turyam tat sarvadrik sada. Okay, so let's just explain this and then we will go into a secondary example and some explanation that I was talking about earlier. We will do that. So he says, but just to finish the explanation of number 12, he says that as a pragya, how are you limited? Na atmanam. You don't know yourself in deep sleep. This is pragya. You see, in order to explain this, another thing to be kept in mind is that in turiya means the experience of a Mahatma who has understood the whole thing. Let's look at, this is what turiya really means, although it is common to all of us, but we don't appreciate that. So in turiya, there is an experience of Advaita. So look at this very carefully. In turiya, there is no limitation. There is an experience of non-duality. I am whole. I am the entire thing. At least an introduction. This is exactly what turiya is defined as. Advaita. In pragya also it is the same. So this is a very interesting, I think Swami Akhandananda had already posed this question. So sometimes posing a question reveals the answer better. So he poses a question. A commentator like a Mahatma, like Swami Akhandananda ji, makes a distinction between pragyaha and turiya. How? In both cases, there is an experience of non-duality. Then how can you say that they are different from each other? This is the question. Number 12 answers that question. How? He says, listen, in the case of deep sleep state, pragyaha, na atmanam na paramscha eva, na satyam nachi anritam. He says there is no knowledge of yourself or of someone else, nor what is truth, what is untruth. All of those kinds of things you don't know. You just have an experience of non-duality. That's it. How it is a non-duality, you don't know in deep sleep. So he summarizes that by saying, pragyaha kinchana samveti. He doesn't know, pragya doesn't know anything. You see, this is interesting that the reason we continue to strive for freedom in our lives. That life is what it is. It's a striving for freedom, complete non-dependency on anything. This is what we are striving for, all of us. Now, if you experience this freedom every night, you would think that I will be done. No. In fact, it's interesting. In fact, you know what? I'm also going to take verse number 13 and combine it for making clear this point that I'm bringing up. That what happens when we all strive for freedom. Total joy. And we get that every night. Total joy. But why don't we stop striving? Because we've already had the experience. In a way, it'll be if I could just be asleep all the time. That's an interesting thing. Well, I'll explain that in a minute. Let me finish verses 11. He says, Dvaitasya agrahanam tulyam ubayoho pragya turyayoho. He says, in the case of pragya and turiya, the agrahanam of dvaitam, not knowing duality, not being bound by duality. Bound by duality means bound by karya, by the effect, right? So in both cases it is similar. Dvaitasya agrahanam tulyam ubayoho pragya turyayoho. Then why not you should say that they are exactly the same? He says, bija nidra yutaf pragyaha sa chaturyena vidyate. Beautiful, beautiful, very nicely put together. I tell you, the grammar and the language and the concepts and the enormity of it, this is what all these Mahatmas, the texts of them, this is why it has been there for thousands of years. It's not just something which is there for a few few years, then it becomes out of fashion. This is so fundamental. He says, listen, even though the two of them are similar, or the same you can say, what the distinction is that in pragya, the seed of trying to know that I am essentially free, the seed of trying to know that I am essentially free is there. So, seed of ignorance, trying to be free means ignorance. I am already free, but I don't know it. So, the seed of ignorance is very much there in deep sleep. But it is not there in Turiya, not there in a Jnani. Why? Because, so this is what happens. So let's to explain this. When you are in deep sleep, you enjoy it. But you don't know that you are already free. So when you get up from sleep, then the experience of life engulfs you again, limits you again. You say, oh my gosh. Why am I, then you struggle. Your karmas keep you going. Then you strive for a little sleep again. So this goes back and forth again. Why? Because the seed of ignorance has not been tackled yet. So it grows again into karya. But in the case of Turiya, that is not the case. Okay, so now we can go back to number 12. So, na atmanam na param chaiva na satyam napi na satyam napi cha anritam pragyaha kinchana samveti turiya tat sarvadrik sada. Sarvadrik sada. Okay. Now that we have done this further viveka, the subtle viveka, sukshma viveka between pragyaha and turiyaha. In fact, for all three of them, all four of them actually. So 4 things. So there's Vishwa, Taijasa, Pragyaha and Turiya. These are the 4 elements. So now we have looked into some distinctions, what is common, what is different, so on. Let's look at some examples. And this is where I want to have a dialogue with you, not just a monologue. So in order to do that, what is it, 9:04? Yeah, I think we have enough time. I gave 2 examples last class. One example is that of the experience of movie going. If you recall, for those of you that saw the class and heard, later on, the movie going experience is very relevant to this distinction between the types of experiences that we have. What does it mean by a movie-going experience? One where you are absorbed in the experience of the movie by becoming an identifier with something that is going on. Good movie makes you identify with a character so that the experience of the character becomes your experience. This is what happens in the movie, right? Your own identity as an independent person is sublated. It is drowned out by the experience of your identification with the character of the movie. Right? This is what happens. So consider that example as indicative of what we are going to see. Consider that example. Okay, set that aside. Let us look at the second example that we spoke of in the last class. And that is the definition of a sakshi, one who is an observer, one that is aware. So, in simple language, one that sees what's going on, sees, evaluates truth from untruth, sakshi. In the last class, we segmented the definition of sakshi as sakshat ikshate iti sakshi. Sakshat ikshate means one that directly sees something, not hearsay, not indirect. It's not like saying, I know, you can say, for example, recently we had a get together. Was that person there? And then you say, yes, I think that person was there. But wait a second. You didn't even go to that. How can you tell that that person was there? Because my spouse who was there told me that this person was there. So this is called indirect knowledge. You trust your spouse and she has no reason to lie to you. And so whatever she says or he says is good enough for you. So you say, yes, that person was there. This is not sakshat ikshanam. Sakshat ikshanam would be if you actually had gone there and saw it with your own eyes. This is called sakshat ikshanam. Right? Okay. The element of this is when you see something, do you need something to see something? Do you need some instrument to see something? And if you think about it, yes. When you say, I saw, you need your eyes and you need light. So you need the Surya Devata. And you need your Indriya, your sense organs. And you need your mind. So you need you cannot say that you saw directly. You saw it with what is called karanam. Karanam means an instrument. And there are various kinds of karanam. You can hear something. Say, how do you know this teacher is teaching? Well, because I can hear. So you are now using your ears to ascertain there is something being said. Similarly, you use the sense of touch. You can say, this is very cold. How? Because I just touched it. So you're always using some karanam in order to see. Okay? The definition of sakshi is not with an instrument, but without an instrument. Can you see without an instrument? This is what is called sakshat karanam vina, without ikshate iti sakshi. That is the real sakshi. The others are secondary sakshis, limited sakshi by the karanam. But the real sakshi is, you don't need any karanam. You directly see. Is that possible? Yes. You see a waking experience directly. You see a dream experience directly. You see the deep sleep experience directly. One can say, how do you see the deep sleep? The other two I can understand, but how it's deep sleep? Because you cannot recount that I slept well unless you saw that I slept well. As we were discussing in the last class, exactly the same thing. If somebody says, how did you sleep? He says, I have no idea. You have no idea? Did you not sleep well? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's not happens. You give some kind of an answer. Yes, I slept well. No, I didn't sleep well. Whatever it is. So you saw it. So Sakshi sees everything without any instrument. Okay? Got it? So you got two experiences, two examples. One is a movie-going experience, and the other one is the distinction between seeing with an instrument or without an instrument. Sakshi, the definition of a Sakshi. Got it? Those two. Now let us ask some questions to ourselves. All right? You ready for this? Okay. In order to frame this question, let us look at this very important verse from the Mandukya Upanishad. Number 3.1. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham parishvasvajate tayoranyaf pippalam swadatti ananyo, I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly. Oh, anashnanyo abhichakashiti. So we've heard this example many times before. which is situated on the same tree, there are two birds. One bird, and the tree here is the body. In the same body, the same experience of a personal experience of you and I, there are two people sitting there, two people enjoying. One of them is very limited and gets results that may be good, may be bad, and he has to experience that. So this is what it says, you like a bird that eats certain fruits that may be sweet or they may be very bitter. And if it's bitter, it just leaves it. If it's sweet, then it eats it. So it is very limited by the type of fruits that it eats. That is indicative of our life. This is exactly what happens. We go through various experiences, and if the experience is good, we want more of it. If the experience is bad, then we want to avoid it. This is exactly what happens. This is one bird. Sitting on the same body is another bird that simply watches what is going on. It watches the other bird, doesn't say anything, just watches. So this is the meaning of this verse. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham parishasva jate tayoho anya pipalam swadatti anashnanyoho abhichakashiti. This is the verse. All right, you're ready for some questions? So I'll just ask a question and then be silent for a minute or two for you to think about it. And if you want, it's wholly up to you, you can put it down on a chat box. But that's totally up to you. This is question number 1. Question is, these two birds that are spoken of in the Mandukya Upanishad, very, very famous, very important verses. Does it mean two birds, two people, or a single bird having two experiences? Right? Question. Are these two birds or a single bird? And can you explain your answer with respect to the movie-going experience? Okay? I hope that's clear. 9:19. So let me pause for a couple of minutes, maybe a minute and a half, something like that. And I will resume the class after you've had a time to think about it. Or if you want, you can even put down your answer. I think I'll see the answers only at the very end, not now, but I just want to give it to you. Okay. All right. So that was question number 1. And we'll discuss that in a minute. Then, now let me pose the second question to you. With respect to the example of the definition of Sakshi that we just spoke of, what is the distinction between a person, you and I, a jiva, and Ishvara, God? You can call it Jivatma and Paramatma with respect to the definition of Sakshi. And how exactly is that example relevant? Is there some relationship between that example and the distinction between a human being and God? Okay, so that's the second question. Think about that. Okay, so hopefully you had enough time for that. All right, so let's go into some of the answers. On the first question, the answer is it's this one person, not one bird, not two birds. Even though in the shloka, in the mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad, it says there are two birds, but that's the beginning. This is kind of like a gross distinction. Then you have to go into more subtle aspects of it. It's only one bird. How? Where is the experience with the movie relevant? So just think about that. What it is this. Supposing you are sitting in a movie and you are getting influenced by the experience of the movie. You're very much into it, and if there's something happens to your favorite character, you may have to wipe your eyes and you become sad or angry or whatever it is. This is a movie experience. You have the ability to suddenly get out of it and resume your normal non-movie identity. All you have to do is, take your cell phone out and there's some messages. As I was just doing, my granddaughter made the NCAA and I was just congratulating her on swimming, and she's coming here, so I'm talking to her. So instead of just being a teacher in this one class, I have another identity. So similarly, in the going to the movie, if it gets to be too hot and you don't like what's happening and so on and so forth, without doing anything, without leaving your seat, you can just regain your identity. Because what's happened is that the movie identity was that something you put on yourself. This is what is called superimposition. Vedanta talks about superimposition. That is something that was done on top of yourself. And it can be discarded right away. It's your choice. By the way, exactly what happens between Turiya and Vishwa. The Turiya is, there is a superimposition of your human experience on Turiya. And it is this movie of the Jagrat Avastha, of the waking state, is so engulfing that even though it is untrue, it takes a while for you to extricate yourself. In the case of a movie, all you have to do is to close your eyes, take your phone out, and then you can wipe out you say, oh, I don't know why was I crying? I don't understand. You're gone. Here, even though the dream experience gives you that experience that you can just get out of it, naturally by the design of Ishvara, in the waking state, it is also superimposition. It takes a little bit longer. But just because it takes a little bit longer doesn't mean that it's any fundamentally different. It's not. It's a superimposition. It's the same person. Same person is a Turiya. The same person which is also a human being. A Vishwa, Taijasa, and Pragya. Okay, so that is the real answer from the standpoint of the movie experience. Now let us go into the second question. What is the distinction between Jiva and Ishvara? From the standpoint of the definition of Sakshi, the answer is it is the same person. Just like you had in the Mandukya Upanishad 2 birds, it is actually one bird behaving differently. As we saw in the movie experience, you had a identification experience and a non-identification experience. Similarly, in the case of the Sakshi, here's the answer. A Jiva is also a Sakshi. You and I are also Sakshi. Paramatma is also a Sakshi. But the Jiva is a Sakshi that needs an instrument. Karanam. You need eyes. You need ears. You need a sense of touch. You need a mind. You need light. You need Surya. You need the sun. You need buddhi to think. This is what a jiva is. It's a sakshi. You know, even when you say, for example, let's just take buddhi. When some very very sophisticated argument is given to you. You know, this is the way it is. This is how the West, you know, there's a lot of discussion between geopolitics about how West used to enslave the African countries in India and so on. And now they are becoming weaker, all those kinds of things. And you can say, I see. So how do you see? You see through your buddhi. You understand some complicated things about geopolitics. So you see. So you see also. So this is the jiva seeing. Paramatma also sees, but without any karanam. It sees directly. So now, it's interesting, just look at this. Is what Mandukya Upanishad is saying, that there are two people sitting in the same tree, and the tree is the physical body, so to speak, in this example. You know what that means? That there is a jivatma in this body and a paramatma in this body. Same body. Not paramatma is not somewhere else. And in fact, they are not two people. As long as you act as a sakshi with karanam, you are a jiva. And if you see, you don't need a karanam, you see directly. You're a Paramatma. So anyway, that is how these commentaries on the Mandukya Upanishad is explained by Gaudapadacharya ji, and we will proceed on it. So, yeah, okay. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Mahamritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. All right, let's see. Asatoma. Oh, very good. Good answers. So this is an important way of looking at things. We will build on it, where the Ishvara is, as they say, Eko Devaha Sarvabhuteshu Gudaha in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, very famous word. Eko Devaha, a single person, that is Paramatma. Sarvabhuteshu Gudaha, it is hidden inside each one of us. And so our search, our 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 ascertainment, our conclusion is that, as Swami Dayanand Ji used to say, you are the problem and you are the solution. You are the limited person and you are the unlimited person. You are the Jiva and Paramatma also is not other than you. You have to give up your own sense of limitation, and then your sense of non-limitation, which is already has been, nothing new, will become apparent. So with these I think are good ways to go into a deeper understanding, and so we will continue with that. Good. Very happy that you could do that. Okay, we'll see you next week, hopefully. Hari Om.